okay, some clients will ask me, is it safe? Is it okay that I should do this? I'm taking a bigger quantum right now. Can you make sure that I can pay?
Oh, I can do dollar cost average into an index on my own. Then 1 year later, I asked this person, have you done it? They actually said no.
The key thing is there a guarantee? There's no guarantee.
Isn't it better if one person does all that for you? Because I'll have my property agent, I'll have my financial advisor. Usually they don't talk, right? Hi everybody, welcome to Misheard, a podcast by the Misfit Collective, and today we have Kelly from LiveAHome, and we also have Janice, and we're going to talk about a very, very interesting topic, investment and wealth creation. Janice, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi everyone, my name is Janice. I'm a financial consultant representing Finexis Advisory, and for myself, I am a big believer of educating the public through education. So one of the things that I do during this whole career time span that I'm working with, right, has been to write over 100 plus articles on financial related content on my website, as well as I've also shot a couple of videos, about more than 60 short videos.
Wow.
To educate the public.
Okay, and then how do you guys know each other anyway?
Through an event from PropNext.
Okay.
She don't really converse a lot, like she's quite quiet.
Right.
And I don't know how we just managed to talk about like building wealth, and that's why she showed that she's quite excited on this topic. And then we exchanged a bit of information with each other, and we realized, maybe we should do something together. So since we both like to make money.
Okay, this is very exciting. Today's topic is very interesting. And of course, Kelly from LiveAHome is a firm believer of property as something that can create and generate wealth. However, Janice, you're from the finance side of things. Insurance can also be used as a tool to create wealth, correct?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you can share a bit about that.
I think that generally for financial instruments, they are part of a holistic portfolio. So just like property is part of the entire cycle of how we can actually create wealth. But I think that as a whole, what financial instruments can do is actually to manage risk. As much as we want to make a lot of money, a lot of end consumers also neglect the fact that what if something unfortunate happens that affects our ability to continue earning that money? Do we have a fallback? So that's where insurance come in. Or sometimes when consumers are overly optimistic, they may have blind spots such as, what if they are no longer able to be around for their loved ones if they have dependents? Then would their dependents be able to live on with dignity? So in such instances, I would say that is where the insurance part of the business comes in. But having said that, we also have a wealth management component is ready to enable them to have that discipline to, if let's say they are planning for their retirement, they can be sure that they will be able to reach their goals. It is not a maybe or if kind of thing, but with clarity because you can work out the numbers. So if you ask me, maybe I can share that there are instances where people can say that, I can do dollar cost average into an index on my own. Then 1 year later, I asked this person, so have you done it? And they actually said no. And this is where we actually learned that working with a consultant is not only just about making sure that the plans are in place, but also to ensure the discipline, because life is very fast-paced, right? Our attention is being caught up in
so many things, yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So that is where I feel that sometimes we do not have the capacity to do everything ourselves. We just need an accountability partner to be there to ensure that we're on track towards our goals.
Right, and that's where financial consultants like yourself come in very handy to help people with their journey of wealth creation. I have a very general but very interesting question. I think a lot of people want to know the answer to this. Property and financial instruments, right? Which one gives a better return in terms of investment, and which one is safer, and pros and cons? Maybe Kelly, you want to start off?
Okay, so we actually have a bit of debate about this as well. Because for her, she's obviously she's very good at what she does, so she knows how to plan in such a way that she's accountable, and she knows how to commit the monthly commitment to make sure her investments are in check. And similarly for me, I think I'm not too sure about financial instruments, but in real estate, I know that with certain key sets of things on why do we select certain properties and not other properties. Like for example, people are always torn between, should I buy a newer HDB or maybe a resale EC, or maybe I should get a new one altogether, and each of them comes with different price tag. what should I actually be expecting if I decide to buy each of them? And most importantly, what is in for me if I buy for each of them? And does this help me to generate me closer to my retirement goal? Now, speaking of retirement goal, we all have different sets of expectation. Some of us, our retirement goal is that we are happy with having $1 million in our bank when we retire. And I have clients who, after doing some numbers, they realize that in order to have a safe retirement, they need to set aside about 3 million so that they can be self-sufficient and not become a burden to their kids, which is something that we stand for as well. But however, if right now you're only owning a HDB which is valued at 500,000, 500,000 to 3 million in the next 15 years could be a very big thing for people. And the key question is it safe for me to progress from 500,000 to 3 million with 3 to maybe 4 rounds of property elevation? And that part is what we do every day. And okay, some clients will ask me, is it safe? Is it okay that I should do this? I'm taking a bigger quantum right now. Can you make sure that I can pay? So that's where we add in our risk assessment management. We add in this to make sure that if they don't work, or if they decide, let's say the wife decide to be a tai-tai, can they have the funds to take care of the wife to become a tai-tai for the next 12 months to even 2 years? Yeah, so we try to balance everything out and at the same time work towards their retirement amount safely and progressively.
Right.
The key thing is there a guarantee? There is no guarantee. Okay? It's just a very calculated step and trends and analysis to help guide someone into being able to finance their property in a very safe and predictable manner.
You talk about guarantee. So you're saying that property investment has no guarantee?
There is no one who can guarantee you that if you buy this amount, you can make 500,000 in the next 5 years.
Right.
Nobody should ever do that.
Right.
I don't think we should.
Right.
But what we want to educate our clients is focus on the property value. Because your property value will be the one to help you to assess how far are you towards your retirement plan.
Okay, thank you. Janice, any thoughts about this? And also, maybe you can share a bit of financial tools that Kelly was talking about compared to, let's say, purchasing a property for investment.
Okay, I think that to answer your question, I will say that my take is property as well as other financial instruments should work hand in hand. I think that property is central to our lives. Even if you don't buy it as an investment property, you need to have one to
stay in. That's right.
So I don't think that it is a either or. It should be complementary.
Yeah.
And when we talk about holistic portfolio, I would not suggest being overly concentrated in any instrument, but to actually have a good diversification of how each instrument can play its part. For example, like what Kelly shared about how property can also be a savings tool. I think that the trade-off is that you are locking a lot of money into bricks. So that is the trade-off. But having said that, if let's say a consumer is someone who totally not interested in finance and may not even be talking to any financial consultant, that may be the best tool because it forces you to save. At least you put your money into an instrument that will be growing over time. Assuming you buy the right one, because if you buy the wrong one, it's also a very expensive mistake.
Right.
So there's the pros and cons, right? So for other financial instruments, like how we work with our clients, we usually go by a goal-based approach. So we want to make sure that we usually tell people don't jump into buying a financial instrument first. Because I think that in the market, one common approach that people are using to buy financial instruments is they just tell people that, I want to grow my money. This is my budget. What can I buy?
Yeah.
But I think that this way of going about planning, it doesn't give you a clear direction of where you're going. So what I will usually suggest people to do is actually to go by a goal-based approach. You work backwards. First, you ascertain what kind of retirement lifestyle you want, for example. And then how much does this lifestyle cost? What is going to be your life expectancy? And with this number in mind, then you work backwards and see what are the ways and the most optimal approach towards getting to this lifestyle. So for example, if we are talking about retirement planning, typically there are two ways to cater for retirement, right? One way is you save up enough money, a huge lump sum of money, and then you start to draw down from there. People who are downgrading back to HDB, that's also one way where they're trying to accumulate that lump sum of money to spend based on drawdown. The alternative approach is to actually have multiple income streams, and as long as these multiple income streams can pay you for your lifetime, inflation proof, then you can also retire. So it's either which way. So each way has its own pros and cons. For example, if you have a huge lump sum to draw down from, the good thing is that you have money on hand straight away. You feel very secure lah. You got 3 million in the bank, you feel very rich at that point of time. But the drawback is also, for most of us, we are very accustomed to spending based on our salaries. If I suddenly give you a huge sum of money and ask you to spend from there, most people actually don't know how much they can spend every month. Would they be overspending? Because there's a moving element, there is inflation. It's not like every month my expenses at 3,000 means that for the next 20 years of my life, I can only spend 3,000. Most likely, it will be incremental growth, and also depends on what's the inflation rate at that point of time. So that moving figure, right, actually confuses people. And there will be points in time where there will be curveballs thrown to you. For example, like health issues, or if your friends during retirement, everybody retired, right? So your friends are also retired. What if they suddenly come to you and say that, hey, let's go for a round the world cruise? That might take up a sizable budget. So are you going to say yes or are you going to say no? These are questions that people struggle to answer. So when you have a huge lump sum, the risk of overspending is there. Typically, people either overspend or underspend. To spend it in a way that it is very accurate is very rare.
Right.
So the other alternative is if you are spending through your income streams. That one is more predictable because we are already accustomed to it since our working life. If I earn $5,000, I just make sure I don't spend more than $5,000. Then if I have $10,000, I just make sure I don't spend more than $10,000. That's more predictable. And if I want to have some buffer, I just spend like $8,000 from my $10,000 income. Then I have $2,000 left behind. I can snowball it for my next month or any emergencies. Yep. So generally, I would say that just now you're asking me about whether which one gives the highest return. I don't think it's more about highest return, but it's how do we help clients to get towards their goal in a feasible, tangible manner that they actually know that every amount that they are setting aside in terms of their resources, right, towards the solutions, how much closer are they getting towards their goal? That predictability, that's one. And second thing is also how realistic is it based on a managed risk approach? Because let's say if you just want the highest return, you can take massive risk in the market, but when things happen, will you become depressed if it doesn't work out the way that you want? Or will you think of committing suicide? So these are things that you don't want to put yourself in that situation. You want to do it in a way that is stress-free. You can still carry on with your life, enjoy it, and then when you reach retirement, continue to enjoy your life.
Okay, thank you. That was a very good answer. I like what you said about how everybody's portfolio should be diversified and how also there are different solutions catered to different needs. That means everybody's portfolio should be different. There's no one real answer for everybody. However, hearing all these things now, as a lay person, right, where do I start, Kelly? So where do I start? Do I look at property? Do I look at financial instruments? How do I know what and where? What do I look at first?
I think if today I have a client who is like, who haven't started anything at all, knowing what Janice could offer and helping the client to assess their retirement needs and what kind of lifestyle they want to be when they retire, it's actually quite aligned with how we assess our clients on how much should they work towards. Like for example, there's this client who haven't do anything at all. So I'll ask my client at this very moment, everyone is upgrading. Do you actually understand the real meaning of upgrading? Because everyone only knows that I need to upgrade. My friends are upgrading. I'm from a HDB to a condo. That's the right way to do. That's it.
But why, right?
Yes. Yeah. So they don't really understand why they need to upgrade. And when we ask them this question, they take a while to process. And usually they tell me, upgrade. And that's where it became quite alarming because I realized people are doing it and they're not knowing why they should do it. So we help them to assess like, okay, from now with your current lifestyle, with your what you need every month, coupled with inflation that we need to cater for. By the time you are 60 years old, how much do you actually need? And of course, we know from 60 to 85, how much do you need to set aside, So with that in mind, it became clear that we have an amount that we need to set aside where we retire so that we can take care of ourselves. That's including inflation already. And then we also need to make sure that we have a roof that is fully paid. We make sure that we set aside emergency funding. And that total amount will be the amount that my client would need to work towards when they reach 60. Now, of course, I'm not going to ask my client to heavily on real estate. Everything real estate. That means if your retirement needs is 5 million, you should work towards 5 million real estate. That can be a real pressure to many, which is what Janice mentioned. Some people may not want to take up this amount of stress. So that's why we need to kind of like work it out to balance by having some financial tools to help you to balance your passive income, so that's what you need, and also having real estate to live in, maybe a secondary property to garner more passive income, and then that's where you have a very well balanced portfolio.
Okay.
So I do think that both need to work hand in hand.
That's right.
So that it's not all eggs in one basket.
I have a question though. Usually in a case like this where planning your wealth and all that, right? When you have property and then you want to have other financial instruments, isn't it better if one person does all that for you? Usually people have different one, right? Because I'll have my property agent, I'll have my financial advisor. Usually they don't talk what? Isn't it better to have someone who's all encompassing?
Frankly, we don't
Overview.
talk. Usually they have their own and we have our own, and that's why we are having this conversation here to help people realize that it is perfectly okay to have financial advisor and your real estate to work together for you.
I think it's better that way, isn't it?
Yes.
I think I can share one case study. It's a success story. What I classify as a success story that I managed to help a client with. This couple who are young teachers. So they managed to buy their first condo, private property at 29 and 32. And you also know that teachers don't earn a super high income. Most likely it's still around the Singapore median income. That's at best, right? But what happened is that because of the early planning that we did, it enables them to actually make this leap very confidently as well as very comfortably. I actually know of this, the husband in his mid-20s, and we have been working together for 5-6 years already. So when we first started out, I ensured that his insurances were all in place just to make sure that if anything unforeseen happens, he's not financially impacted. Then thereafter, he was very open to start his retirement planning very early. So he has been allocating resources towards retirement planning, and given his long runway, the resources that he needs to allocate is definitely lesser than somebody who starts much later in life. So with that in place, within like maybe probably 2 to 3 years later, he actually introduced me his then fiancée, now wife, to also start this wealth planning process. And we managed to put in place a very solid foundation for both husband and wife. And when the time comes to buy a house, right, when they are going to settle down, I think that what worked was that because they were very young, they were still having these salary increments, and all this planning that we did in the earlier stages, they were fixed amounts, so it's already a fixed commitment. So all these increments that they had was their surplus that enables them to actually calculate what they need for their housing needs and other lifestyle aspirations or even family planning. So this enabled them to comfortably decide on getting that upgrade or that condo for themselves in such an early stage. So as long as you front load your commitments early, it actually buys you that time and leeway to cater for other lifestyle aspirations later on, due to the fact that your salary will continue to be on an upward trajectory if you are young enough. This is also why financial consultants always nag, start early. This is the reason.
That feels like a running theme recently. Plan early, start early, don't procrastinate. The earlier, the better. I mean, 29 and 30 what?
32.
32, yeah, that's very, very young. So now they're probably what, in their...
They just bought it last year. So
just, okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, amazing. Can we go into specifics? Can you share with us, Jenny, some maybe specific wealth creation options that's suitable and for what type of people?
Okay, so there are a wide range of financial instruments in the market, and it's so many that it's very hard to list out all of them. So what I will do is actually just to give examples of some of the more mainstream ones. So we have equities, bonds, exchange traded funds, mutual funds, or even instruments like property is also considered a financial instrument, and things like Singapore savings bond. So these are some of the more common ones that Singaporeans are well accustomed to. In terms of suitability, right, it's actually down to individual purpose Like, why do you need this instrument? What is it meant for? And also individual risk appetite. So to give an example, if let's say a person chooses to do investing, but this person evaluates their investment on a yearly basis, and they lose sleep as long as their investment goes into the red, then basically they are approaching investing with a very speculative mentality. But at the same time, they do not have the risk appetite of a speculator. So in such instances, right, then definitely the instrument is not suitable for them. But they must have that awareness lah. They cannot just be unhappy and not be aware of why this instrument is causing this unhappiness to them. So in such an instance, it might be more feasible for such an individual to maybe choose something safer, maybe an instrument that guarantees your capital. But at the same time, you have to be willing to accept a lower return. Because it goes hand in hand, right? The relationship, if you want something that is securing your capital, you cannot be expecting something that is very high returns. Likewise, if you want something of higher returns, it usually comes with an element of risk.
High risk, high gain. No?
Correct. So in such an instance, I would say that, let's say you are aware that, oh, I'm going for something that is safer, more predictable, but at the same time, my return is also compromised. So then I might need to set aside more money to achieve the same goal. Then I must be prepared to set aside that more money also. So it's about understanding the relationship of different instruments and the suitability to that individual. Yep.
It sounds like everybody you meet, you really have to understand them and do a proper risk assessment before you can suggest whatever they may need, right?
Ideally, that's the right way to go about it.
Okay, Kelly, any thoughts on how all that we've been talking about ties in very importantly in your asset elevation model in
I
LiveAHome?
think, as mentioned, right, asset elevation model covers the real estate portion. We also do risk assessment management in terms of adjusting the quantum that a client should buy. For instance, my client should be able, for some of my clients, they are able to loan up to 2 million. However, the funds available to put down the down payment could be only about 400,000. So things like that, if we know that 400,000 is everything they are all in already and they have zero emergency funding, then that is something that is a red flag to us that we should not get our clients to do that. As such, we will ask them to, okay, with this, then maybe instead of 400, we down to 300,000, keep 101,000. Or maybe 100,000, we will leave it in CPF so that you have some additional funds in case you want to like take a break from work. So then the purchase price or the quantum will be lower. In exchange, we also weigh out to them that, okay, if that's the case, are you okay that maybe instead of, from a 2 million assets, you downsize to 1.8? Then when you elevate your asset will be somewhat around 2.1 million instead of 2 million to 2.4 million. Okay, why is that difference? Because when you are going to a higher quantum assets, sometimes it means that the space that you are buying is bigger in square feet. So if it's bigger in square feet, your gains is calculated based on your square feet, say if you're going to a private apartment. But if you're buying a smaller unit, then maybe instead of a 3-bedder, you're going for a 2-bed plus study. That means that you might need to take a longer time to grow faster than a 3-bedder. So that's something that we'll raise up to our clients and say, are you aware of this? And then we will leave the decision to them to see what they have in mind. I do have clients selling off their investment to go into real estate. And I also have clients telling me that they have too much money locked in financial tools that they don't have money for real estate. I just met one I think 2 months ago, my long-term client. He wanted to restructure his portfolio and he couldn't because his property is no longer growing. His property was an EC. It's about 20 years old EC sort of. And he wanted to upgrade to maybe a private condo. However, he has thousands of money every month stuck in financial tools. He told me, then that's why he couldn't commit to the monthly commitment that a 3-bedder will get him.
Right.
That's how we help our clients to weigh on.
Can we talk a bit about that liquidity? Can we talk about liquidity in property and liquidity in financial instruments?
Okay.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Liquidity in what aspect?
How liquid? In terms of investment, is property versus financial instruments? Because you said locked in. Usually when I think about financial instruments, I think about very long-term kind of investments. Is that true?
I would say that the general principles of investing, one of which is that you have to be sufficiently diversified. It's better to invest long-term than short-term because the risk is higher. and definitely in terms of short term it's more speculative, hence it is harder to predict the market movements, and hence you have to be prepared to take bigger risks. So I would say that yes, it is more long term in mind, but having said that, there are also instruments that may not have a very stringent lock-in. Like there are features within the plans itself that allows for flexibility. There are also investment instruments in the market that is fully flexible, no lock-in at all.
Oh, okay.
I mean, my client who bought their initial condo, that was one of the instruments that they actually liquidated their investments in CPF, in cash, to make that purchase. So that shows that there is that flexibility around.
Right.
I think what is key is to be able to work with a consultant that considers the different possibilities in planning. I think that is more important. It is not about just locking up all your money so that you have money in the future, but it's also to ensure that you have money now so that you have that access to, let's say if there are some change of plans or there are some emergencies that you need to cater to, you have access to a certain level of liquidity.
That's right.
For that.
When you need it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has to be a right balance.
Okay.
It cannot be either or in various extremes.
Sure. Kelly, can you say the same about property?
This is really very true.
Yeah.
Like most of my financial advisor will tell me to look at 10 years, 15, even 20. So we were having coffee one day and she was telling me that I'll say, how can I help my clients who are actually collecting rental income? That they can roll their rental income into more, they can reinvest the rental income that they have. And that's where she also raised up to me that are you aware that, when the client receives rental income, they can use the rental income accumulated to invest in something short term, like let's say a 2-3 years thingy. Yes, the returns are not high, but it's better than they spend it off. So when they want to upgrade to the next level, which is aligned with asset elevation model, because the reason of having a real estate property, because it's also one of two for you to grow. I have couples who buy a house, they buy a bigger unit with lower entry per square feet, and they stay inside. And I also have couples who own one for own stay and another one for rental income. So more than often, the rental income that they collect, we don't know where the money go. They usually spend it off. So when we were sharing about this, she said actually this one they can reinvest the rental income and pump it in so that at the end of 3 years when they want to flip the property, which is something that we do, they will have a surplus fund that they can use it to down pay for the next property. So I thought that was a very good initiative and a very good idea, which is I have not heard anyone who shared this to me, because obviously I'm an agent, I'm a real estate agent, I'm not a financial advisor. So that is also one thing that we can tie up together so that the clients can feel safe that, these are all taken care of and they can liquidate in case if they don't want to buy the next property. That rental income, that investment that they have, the short-term investment that they have made could be another savings plan that they can use it for other things.
Very good. Would you consider property a short-term investment or a long-term investment?
So in asset elevation model, we break down the retirement, we work out the retirement amount already. Then we see where they are at and how is their income status like. And then after that, we break down into maybe 3 to 5 times of property growth. Okay? So this 3 to 5 times also depends on the client's age. If the client is, let's say, in their late 20s to early 30s, then it's okay for them to do this another 3 to 4 times. But if the client is already 50 years old, you can't expect them to do 3 to 4 times. So as such, then we will only do maybe 1 or maximum 2 times for them in terms of the property flipping or property growth. Then also in terms of the commitment wise, we also need to assess to what stage are they comfortable. Some of them, they are okay with 4,000 a month of monthly mortgage. Some of them, they say, no, I only want to do a 2. So that really depends on the client's risk appetite, on how much they want to take up.
Okay, very good. So again, it comes down to who the client is, what needs they have, what kind of risk appetite they have. Okay, now I want to talk about something that is not individual, not based on individual. Everybody kena one. So recently, in the last few years, we have many things happening in the economy, right? Now, it's ever-changing also. So let's say in times of economic downturn or change in interest rates, whatever, how does this impact property and how does it impact wealth creation in terms of financial instruments? Maybe, Janice, you want to start?
I think that as long as you have sufficient emergency funds, it should not impact your long-term commitments. Because, let's face it, in our lifetime, right, we are going to go through multiple recessions. Regardless of whether you buy property or you buy a investment instrument, or let's say you invest in indexes, you are still going to go through at least 3 to 4 market cycles. That is unavoidable. And even if you don't invest or you don't do anything, right, you will still go through that. You might still lose your job due to recession. It is still part and parcel of the fact that all of us, as long as we are living in this world, most likely will go through a few market cycles. So I think it's really down to knowing that these market cycles are bound to happen. Do we have that excess buffer that we are insulated from when things happen? We don't have to suddenly liquidate all our investments and be at a very disadvantaged position. Because if you liquidate your investments during a downturn, most likely you're going to sell it off at a very unfavorable price as well, which is not ideal. So I have known people who even set aside up to 2 years of emergency funds just to make sure that during market cycles they actually can still do top-ups and invest more without having to liquidate any of their investments. So at the end of the day, it's really how much buffer do you have when things happen, and to make sure that in emergencies, let's say if there's a health emergency, if your insurances are in place, most likely your plans will still continue because your insurance payouts would help to buffer for that.
Right. So it sounds like what you're saying is have good buffer, have insurance coverage properly, and just ride through difficult times, but never give up on your long-term investments.
I think that that is where the role of a financial consultant comes in handy as well. So a lot of times, right, people think that financial planning is all about logic and numbers. I think that a lot of it has to do with psychological management. It's very easy for me to tell you, hey, invest long term. And you probably know that also, you don't need me to tell you. But the question is, how do you find that discipline or even that certainty to be able to ride out market cycles when you see your portfolio in the red or things are not doing so well? That's when people are unsure, and that's where they make rash decisions. So having a person to talk to handhold them through the journey, to remind them of what their goals were, or even the risks that were highlighted already. Like you probably will inform your client that, hey, this is for your retirement. Most people plan for 65, right? Then if you're in your 20s now, most likely you have to go through at least 3 to 4 market cycles before your retirement. You will probably be informing the client that you will be going through these 3 to 4 market cycles. During each of these market cycles, depending on what is the drawdown going to be, you will experience some form of drawdown. Do not panic, because as long as we are still on track towards our strategy, if the strategy still has viable evidence that it's working out, then we should stay the course. And have someone constantly reminding them when that fear sets in. I think that is most important. So I feel that one of the core roles of a financial consultant is actually psychological management.
Wow. That's very good. Not just a transactional salesperson at the start, but to see you through tough times and remind you about why you started this in the first place.
Yes.
Very good. Kelly,
Very good.
Does economic downturn affect property
Okay.
in terms of wealth creation? Yeah.
Okay, so I have clients who ask me that, hey, are you sure that now I'm going to this amount of quantum of real estate is really safe for me to make sure that, I will not lose money? Because most clients, their biggest fear that is stopping them from taking action is the fear of losing money. I mean, last time during the Lehman crisis and all this, it has caused a very big impact to people that property market can crash because people can buy and dump. But later on, after 2009 onwards, there were cooling measures to regulate the market. And in fact, there were a lot of cooling measures to regulate the market every now and then. Even till now, occasionally you still see cooling measures. And why are all these cooling measures for? It's because it's to regulate and stabilize the market so that it doesn't go up too fast and come down crashing. So the occurrence of property market crashing is very minimum. I cannot say no. So it's very minimum. Yes, there will be property cycles like what Janice mentioned. There may be up times, there may be also not so up times, and there will be times that market are more stable and sometimes market are thriving. So every time when we get a client to buy a property, we will also run through with them the possible scenarios that could happen. For example, right now as you enter, where are we at in terms of the real estate cycle? And in the next few years, what will be the possible real estate cycle based on a few fundamentals? Firstly, we have interest rates. Second, we have the supply and demand because it's transparent in our URA. And these are the things that are not speculated, it's a fact. And the last thing that we want to share about is our GDP because it's also transparent to everyone. So with all these few things in mind, we also couple with another layer of how do you ensure no matter it's good times or bad time, the property selection that you are having is also safe. So we cannot say, oh, this property is at a very pristine location, it's a sure buy, must buy. We also don't do that. So the second layer that we go into is the right property selection. So how do you ensure your property you go in at the right time? You go in with the right strategies. And also how do you ensure you choose the right type facing layout when you enter into that development? So with these two major layers covered, we will also share with you how do you exit your property. In the next 3 years to 5 years down the road, how do you exit your property and who can you sell it to? So all these things are covered when our client buy a property. It's not really speculation, but it's all through analysis. So as such, yes, there's going to be calculated risk. Yes, you still need to go through property cycle, but because your holding period is between 3 to 5 years, it's something that we are able to manage in terms of when to enter and when to exit.
Very good. With all these cooling measures in place, does it mean that because property becomes less speculative, the gains also reduce?
I agree, yes. People used to tell me a property can earn about 500,000-600,000 a lot. Nowadays, because of the entry price that is getting higher and also the new ruling of harmonization and stuff, we also notice that people are seeing how come outside core region is going at 2005, 2003 per square feet. And then you have like the RCR area, which is selling at about 2007, 2009. Recently, even up to 3,000. Yes, and we also, of course, CCR is crossing 4,000 already. So this amount of increase in the entry price is causing a lot of uncertainty in people.
Right.
And that's where we need to do even more research to help them to find out where is a sweet spot they should enter.
Right.
So that they don't take so much risk.
That's right. And also diversify their portfolio by using financial instruments.
Correct.
Yeah. Would you say that in your experience the last few years, do you think people are more into wealth creation recently? Do you feel that, or is it just me, and why?
I think people are getting more well informed. I mean, in the past, you want to know whether what a person says is true is very hard to audit. There's no easy access to information before the internet age. So now with easy access to information, the challenge is people are getting overwhelmed by too much information. There's even fake news. So how do you actually be able to ascertain between what is real and then what is important? So even as Kelly was sharing earlier, I think what the thought that caught me now is that increasingly as even like for properties, things are getting more and more expensive. To buy the right one is very critical. So that's where working with the right agent is very important, because you need that relevant information to get that purchase right. And I think that even for financial planning, it's also about being very your strategy has to be correct. It is not so much of buying various instruments again, because it's the same as if you have tons of bank accounts, inside all a bit of money only. You might not be able to retire even if you have more bank accounts than another person, only one bank account but a lot of money inside. So it's the same thing. It's about making sure that your strategy can get you to your goal in a managed risk manner. So I think that is very critical. More people are interested in financial planning. More people are interested in wealth creation, because I think it's important. As things get more and more expensive, you want a certain lifestyle, you need to have the means to pay for it.
Yep.
So I also feel that having that knowledge is critical also in the sense that even if you do not want to do it yourself, being more well informed allows you to be able to find the right person to work with, so that when you ask better questions, right, and the person is able to give you the answers that satisfies your selection process, then you feel more comfortable and confident when this person tells you to implement certain solutions. You'll be more willing to deploy your resources.
Yep.
If you're not so confident with the person that you're working with, most likely you'll hold back. You'll hope that, hey, maybe if I find somebody better, I still have these resources available to deploy with that person.
Yep.
Because if I deploy all now, then I got no more resource. Even if I find somebody better, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very good points. I like what you said, that even right now in this world where we are so well informed and we have access to information everywhere, and also now with AI technology, right, growing every day rapidly, at the end of the day, we still need somebody. We still need relationship. We still need property and financial consultants like yourself to hold our hand and help us through difficult times and even good times also.
Yeah. Because we don't know what we don't know,
We don't know what we don't know. That's true.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we get confused with all the information out there and fake news especially.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know. Okay.
I got a question. What you all have been discussing so far, right, sounds like a very first world problem type thing. It's how the rich get richer kind of thing, right? So let's give the median income people in Singapore, which is, I would say, a good 75% of us in Singapore, right, some solace, right? At this current point in time, feel like whatever you've just talked about, right, is very unattainable. How then do they get there eventually?
Other options.
Yeah.
I think the rule of thumb is still the same. Like we can have people who are earning combined income of 8,000 a month. I have lah. And we apply the same method for them. Why? Because this is how much they earn. Their spending will also be somewhere around that range, like maybe about 2,000-3,000. But conversely, if I have a client who is earning 20,000 combined income, their spending will not be 3,000 a month. No?
Yeah.
Their spending will be 7,000 to 8,000 a month.
Yeah.
So same thing you apply to the calculation of the retirement amount, you realize that it's actually quite aligned one.
Same ratio lah. That's what you're saying.
It
is
is the
it?
same ratio
It's
actually.
the same ratio lah.
We notice lah.
Oh.
Unless the person is in debt, that one we cannot help.
I mean,
Is it
there are
anything?
common principles to apply lah, because like the success story I shared earlier about the young couple who managed to buy their first condo, they are earning median income, civil servant pay.
Yeah.
It's something that it's not a high income earner kind of range, right? But I think the general principle for this couple is that they are very frugal in their expenses, and hence they have the sufficient surplus to be able to commit to their retirement planning on the onset, and then surplus is subsequently, that is when they are able to cater for their housing as well.
In other words, there is no, everywhere is a starting point lah. That's what both of you are saying, right? No matter where you're at, you can
Yeah.
start. That's what you're saying.
Yes, unless I have cases where they are really living in a very old HDB and their monthly income is maybe 3,000 a month to 4,000 a month, and they actually barely make ends meet. Then that is a situation where it's very hard for me to come in to help them to upgrade. The only way to upgrade from them is maybe from a 3-room to a 4-room, and that's it. This asset elevation model is too big for them. It will be too stressful for them, so we will skip this process altogether. Because for them, they don't have the bandwidth to think about having more money to buy any financial tools. They may not even be educated enough to go into that stage.
Yep.
So then that one will be totally not able to blend into this whole
Okay.
model.
Would the same?
I think the core principle is really how much you save and how much you earn. So these are the two levers that's the most important. So let's say like what Kelly shared, if you are in a stage of your life where you are earning hand to mouth,
Yeah.
you don't have that additional surplus, then the things that you need to think about is really down to how are you going to increase your income, because there's two levers to pull, right? Is how much you earn, and then from the amount that you earn, it's how much you save from there and how much you decide to allocate for investment. But first, you must have the money to save.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when you don't have enough, the thing that you need to really consider is there room for you to start a side hustle? Or is there room for you to go for further education such that you can increase your income? That would be the primary thing that I would advise anybody that I meet that does not have sufficient resources to start anything. That would be the conversation.
Very
that we're having.
practical solution lah. Earn more lah. How to earn more.
So they are in
other
that
words, right?
basic
Yep.
stage of
Yep.
life, man. They are not able to go to the advanced level. So if this is what they are looking at and this is what they expect already, that they are happy with 3-room to a 4-room, they top up maybe mortgage of $100 a month, they are okay with it, then that is the least that we can do, because they may need a bigger space for their family.
Right.
And as for thinking about retirement, it's too big for them.
Yep.
I really have clients coming to me like that. Hey, it's too far. I don't want to think about this now. 我自己每个月都可能不够吃了，我还要去想这个东西。Don't think so much.
Yeah. Or like me, buy Toto every week lah.
But actually, I disagree that people should not think about retirement. I feel that retirement planning, right, is something that is it's an event that definitely will happen. It's just a question of whether is it a voluntary retirement or involuntary retirement. you can say that, oh, I don't have money, I can choose not to go for a degree. Or if I don't have enough resources, then I don't have children. Or I can choose to forego my holidays. All these are optional things. But for retirement, right, regardless of whether you earn $2,000, $5,000, or even $10,000, it's an event that will eventually happen at some point in your life. And yes, I have clients who say that, oh, I don't earn enough and maybe I do not want to sacrifice my lifestyle, so I do not want to cater for my retirement. But the question is, what if it's an involuntary retirement? What if you reach an age where, let's say if you're in a white-collar job, and your employers do not want to continue to pay you your salary, they do not want to continue your employment, at an age where you have less energy to go into something more physically laborious. So that's the first question. Then the second question is, what if your health does not allow you to continue working? Do you have that fallback plan where you can have the resources to at least give yourself a comfortable enough life? Because you must understand that when we are sick, not everything enables us to be hospitalized. There are illnesses that require us to see GP, see specialists, but we do not get hospitalized, so there is very little insurances that you can actually utilize. And this is where your savings come into play. So you still need that fallback, which to me then, retirement is a event that is unavoidable. You need to think about it.
I think the need to think about it is necessary. Is the willingness to take action to it. So the biggest problem is when they are already in a state that they don't even have money every month. They don't have any motivation to think about planning for retirement because, as mentioned, they don't even save. To them, $2,000 savings is a lot. I really see people with this amount of savings in the bank, some even just a couple of hundreds. So I have helped people downsize from 4-room to 3-room to pay for their medical bill because they just don't have. So that you are right, there are people who are less well off and they really go through this. So the bad thing that you can think of is, at least when I retire, government pays me every month for my CPF. So if we talk about this with them, like for you it's still okay, because if they go into retirement you can earn them a couple of hundreds a month as a start off point. But what if they are like 55 already and the last thing on their mind is to spend any more money? Then I think as real estate we can only help them to downsize. That's the difference in what we do.
I mean, I always tell people that by the time you reach your mid-40s to even early 50s or late 50s, right, you should have a lump sum of at least more than 100,000 on hand that you can deploy if you actually want to plan for retirement. Because it's also an indicator of how you have been living your life from the point that you started work up to the point that you decide to do something, right? If you don't have this 6-figure amount in your bank account, it just means that you don't have this disciplined saving habit throughout your life. And definitely without this lump sum, you can be mentally prepared that most likely your retirement lifestyle will be compromised.
Okay.
Quite sad, but true.
Sad but true, a lot.
So that's why we want to make sure that with all these sharing sessions that we have, right, we create more awareness in people that it is very important to plan for retirement in Singapore because the cost of living is really very high. And I think I shared it in one of my videos that I see actually old folks still working when they are 60 plus. And they are really working even though they are like maybe not in the best state to work already. And when we have casual conversation with them, all they say is that no choice, their kids are not there to take care of them. So the last thing on our mind is to become a burden to our family and expect that your kid takes care of you, because let's be real, we cannot predict the future.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be dependent on them,
exactly.
Right? All of us don't want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of this podcast.
That's right.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, I also believe that education is very important. That's why I write over 100 over articles. It's just to create that awareness.
Yeah. What are your articles about?
Different aspects. So usually my inspiration for all these articles is through the conversations that I have with my clients. If I realize that there is a component that they don't understand, then I will choose to write an article on that, because my theory is if one person doesn't understand, chances are maybe 10,000 people or 20,000 people may not have that understanding as well.
Right.
And like I mentioned, most people want to do the most rational and best decision for themselves. But if they do not understand something, then they are making a decision based on the information that is inadequate, right? So I always believe that if I give them sufficient information, their decision making will be better, due to the fact that now they understand the implications of a certain decision and what they can actually look forward towards also. So yeah, so generally I focus a lot on educating people based on what they do not understand, and hopefully with a very detailed breakdown to help them understand better with illustrations and all, then it will help them to make more informed decisions.
That's awesome. How long have you been in this line, Janice?
This is my 6th year.
Oh, before that?
Actually, I've been in banking lah. So if you want to consider the whole career trajectory, I would say that more than 10 years.
Ooh, okay. From bank, then you came out to do this.
Yes.
Was there a reason why?
I think that right now what I really enjoy about my job is there is more room for creativity. I can do podcasts like this. If I have salary stuff, I cannot lah. But at the same time, it also allows me to really educate people based on my own planning philosophy, my beliefs, more than just like if we are in a target-driven environment, then you will be having to push directions based on your employer. But right now, I can really do it based on what I feel is right and what is most beneficial from the end consumers.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Janice, for today. Any last words of advice to our viewers about wealth creation in terms of property as well as in terms of financial? Kelly, maybe you can go first.
Okay, I think what we, in this era right now, what we want to do is we cannot put all eggs in one basket. And as much as property prices are getting more and more higher, it is still very important to make sure you also build your stream of passive income when you retire. And at the same time, make sure that the commitments that you decide to sign up for is something that you can manage without compromising your current lifestyle. So let's say you're earning like 10,000 a month, your monthly commitments to like paying the other forms of investment using the financial tools and your mortgage should still leave you enough to take care of your travels, your family needs, and even to take care of yourself. So most importantly, you shouldn't overfinance it. Yeah, so I think that is something we hope to achieve for all our clients.
And that's why it's so important that you have access to financial consultant as well as property consultant at the same time when planning a portfolio. I think that's very important. That's something I learned today. Janice?
I think what's most important is to actually go by a goal-based approach and work backwards. I think that too many people, when they approach growing their wealth, they start with like, oh, this is my resources, let's see what I can get with it. So if I feel like buying a house at this point of time, I will just go to the property agent, hey, this is my budget, what can I buy? And then I just buy within what I can afford. And the same applies to wealth creation in various financial instruments. They will be telling you, oh, I got $500 a month to spare, what can I do with it? And they work based on what they have towards a goal that there's no end point. So I think that it is better if they have a goal in mind, they know where they are going, and then they work backwards. Then you know how the other moving parts fit into your overall game plan.
Right.
Then you will know what kind of property you can commit to, what are the long-term resources you are going to set aside for your old age, and what are the how much liquidity you need in between. It's easier to visualize once you have an endpoint and you work backwards. But if you are moving forward and not knowing when is the endpoint, that's where you get common complaints like, it seems like a never-ending process. Every time I meet my financial consultant, they ask me to buy more plans. Or if I meet my property agent, they just keep asking me to upgrade. But there is no end point in mind. So consumers in general, my take is everybody wants to make the best decision for themselves. They are rational people. And nobody would deliberately make a decision that is detrimental to them. It's a question of how much clarity they have. And within that clarity, they will make the best decision that they can.
Thank you, Janice. I think that's the perfect wrap-up. End goal and then reverse engineer, which ties in very nicely to LiveAHome's asset elevation model. So thank you so much, Kelly from LiveAHome. Thank you so much, Janice. You can reach out to Kelly or Janice through LiveAHome or also through Janice's handle, and we'll also include a link to your write-ups and your bio and your videos and all that. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been Misheard, a podcast by Misfit Collective. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.